Hi, my name is Christina Jamieson and welcome to the School of Home Ownership. We're currently doing a series called Advice Worth Its Weight in Gold. And today we have an architect with us called Kevin Pham.
Hi.
So Kevin has been practicing architecture, if that's the word, for the last 15 years or so. And he's actually also a finalist in the St. George Local Business Awards. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
So just briefly, give us a quick overview of where you started and how you got your degree, I suppose.
Hi. I study in bachelor and master in architecture in Singapore. Then after that, I moved to Australia to practice my architectures, and I become a registered architect in Sydney. So I have been practicing in Sydney for about 6 years until now. Yeah. So I helping to renovate the building, the house, for the resident in Sydney, and also to help the people with the NDIS, with the disability, with the NDIS house.
That's good. So it's a husband and wife team. So we were having a little chat earlier about the differences between designing for Singapore versus Sydney. And I was quite interested to find out that housing in Singapore is quite different in the sense that a 2-hour daylight was okay in Singapore and in the code, whereas in Australia we have issues with our next door neighbours in terms of when they design their work, how much light is actually allowed into our house. So I found that quite interesting. So I guess that's the challenge for an architect in Sydney to worry about. Now, if we go into, we've got an interesting couple of topics. We touched on the NDIS and specifically the special disability accommodation. We're also going to quickly touch on kitchen design. Now, there's a quick rule which we've come across, and it's about, I don't know what it's the fancy word, 3-point design. I'm not quite sure, but maybe you'd want to take us through how you actually design kitchens.
So when we design the kitchens, so the basic, the first priority of designing the kitchen is the 3-point principle. So 3-point, the first point is the fridge, and the other one is the sink and the oven. So the 3-point have to be well connected in the context that the people use the kitchens functionally, and they can cook very quickly and efficient in the limited space. So that's why we really focus on the 3-point, the principle of 3 points when we design the kitchen.
So when we talked about it, I think we drew a sketch. So we're looking at oven top, fridge, and sink. Is that the basic concept?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be equidistant from each other.
Yeah, that's right. So when we design it, we have to optimize the 3-point in the reasonable space. Then the people can use the kitchens efficiently. And also, this 3-point here can give the people, like the most optimum space to cooking and save time for the owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you do if there's a really small kitchen and you've only got one bench? You just have to put it all in there, or you would put a corner in, or how would you do that?
Yeah. So it's a normal size when you have the 3-point, but in the very specific context that we don't have enough space, then we have to squeeze everything into one linear line. That when have the kitchens and the cooker and the fridge at the same line. So I think that is the normal practice nowadays, especially for the small studio apartment in Sydney. Yeah, in the apartment building at near the center, near the city center. Then it should be okay. It should be like applying that only for the small area. But as an architect, we design for the kitchen for the normal building. we always base on the 3-point principle to design the properly kitchens for the
Yes,
owner.
because the new thing at the moment is to put granny flats. So if you've got a house, you would put a granny flat, and I imagine they're quite small. So a little bit of tweaking, you could probably put a little corner so that you do get that 3-point
Yeah,
in the
that's
kitchen,
right.
because it's a lot of open plan in, I guess,
Yeah,
the granny
that's right.
flats.
Yep.
Thanks for that. And then, so we're talking about another topic, which is the NDIS, special disability accommodation. Now, that is something that I've actually been quite interested in, and I've been looking into it, and it's quite difficult to sort of organise on your own. There's people that do it in Queensland and so forth, but I find there's actually quite a bit of a shortage in Sydney, because usually I know that in Queensland and other areas they can actually build it from scratch, but we can actually convert properties in Sydney to become SDA, special disability accommodation, for people. So, and you're involved with that. So how does that work? And I was very curious to know about, we're talking about kitchens, say somebody with a wheelchair. How do you design so that it meets the code? And of course, people that, have wheelchair, that live in a wheelchair, how they access the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, sure. NDIS scheme is a very interesting topic in Sydney at the moment, because we not only to have the disabled people to have the proper place to live and to live in the space, but also it's an opportunity for the investor to invest in the NDIS scheme. So when I designed the kitchen for the disabled people, so the highest priority is have to think about how the people sitting in the wheelchair can use the kitchen as normal people. So where to design the kitchens that, for example, the sink, they have to reserve the space for the wheelchair to slot in, and they can use the sink as a normal when they sit in the wheelchair. So, and also the same design for the oven. You also have to use the oven is the same principle. You have to slot the wheelchair inside the kitchen bench, and they can use that when they sitting in the wheelchair.
And so you'd also, I find that quite fascinating actually, because we just take things for granted, because things are, are designed for able-bodied, average-sized height. So how do they reach cabinets? How do you design that? Because that would be quite difficult as well. Again, we take that for granted.
Yeah, so we have to calculate the height of the cabinet that is suitable for the people sitting in the wheelchair, that they can reach the stuff in the cabinet, and they can get it by themselves when they sit in the wheelchair. So it means that we have to lower down the kitchens as much as we can, so it comply with the code actually. So the code of design for the disabled people, the government have the guideline for the architect to follow. So they have the certain standard height for the cabinet and also standard height for the kitchens that we can base on for the design. Yeah, so we can base on the guideline, and also we can base on our experience to design the suitable kitchens for the disabled people on the wheelchair.
Okay, and what about bathrooms?
So the bathroom, they also have the special bathroom as well. So it's not like a normal bathroom that is very limited space. So we have to design the bathroom that accommodate for the wheelchair to go in, and they can turn the wheelchair in the bathroom to use a sink and to use a toilet for the disabled people. So we have to design, sometimes we have to design the bathroom even bigger than the bedroom.
Oh, bigger than the bedroom.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite interesting point. So toilet and kitchen is really important in the NDIS house.
To summarise, the special disability accommodation I think is very important for a city to be inclusive, and it also provides investors an incentive to do it, and we just have to calculate the numbers to be able to convert properties to be able to host, and that's where we need specialists like yourself, an architect that could do that as well. And I believe developers have been doing it with land. This land is scarce in Sydney, so it's good if we can work out ways of actually improving disability accommodation in Sydney. Yeah, so in summary, we learnt about kitchens, we learnt about the 3-point principle, if I'm correct, and we also learnt about the possibility for investors investing in special disability accommodation with help from experts such as Kevin Pham. So thank you. And Kevin, if you want to find out more information from yourself, your name of your company is called LVA Architects.
Yep.
So we have a website will be attached on this. It's called LVA Architects.
Yeah. LVA.
So another question for you, Kevin, and this is for investors. How much, as a guide, would it cost to be able to convert a house? And is it possible to do that?
Yeah. So I did the project in Haymarket a few months ago. So they want to convert the apartment, become the NDIS apartments for the disabled people. So they already have the plan and the kitchen. So we just renovate a little bit kitchens and also the toilet. So the cost is like roughly about 40 to 60,000. Yeah, $40,000 to $60,000 to renovate the interiors only for the people, for the NDIS to use the apartment.
Which is it's a quite reasonable cost. Initially, I thought it would be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I mean, doesn't cost that much different really just to do a normal renovation. So to renovation for a specialised disability, that it seems quite reasonable to myself anyway. And of course there is complications with the NDIS, so I'm not going to speak on that, and we'll get an NDIS expert to explain the rental returns and how that aspect of it works. But it's definitely worth it for a lot of people to be able to do that.